Welcome to the second video of Section 2, Importing Data into R. We went over importing data into QGIS from the last video. In this video, we will be using some handy tips in operating the R environment, familiarizing with the environment further, and import and interact with spatial data. It is pretty simple to import spatial files or tabular data into R. For spatial files, we use the previously introduced SF package. And you can see the three functions here that imported point data, line data, and a Vancouver boundary shapefile into the R environment. So let's get started with the script. So if you haven't installed any of the packages that we'll be using before, then you can run this line, install the packages, and install the SF and readr package that we'll be using in this video. Once you run this, you can then load in these two packages into our environment. So before we start interacting with the data, we'll introduce you to some key shortcuts. It is essential to start a fresh environment whenever you run a new script. The way to do this is by clicking Command-Shift-F10 or Control-Shift-F10. Alternatively, you can go to Session, New Session. So when we run a line of code, we can either put the cursor in this line, hit Run, or highlight this individual line that you want to run and exclude all the rest, or simply click Command Return or Control Enter on the PC, and it'll execute. So if we want to run this previous line again, we can simply go Command-Shift-P. This is handy when you alter a large body of code. So when you want to run the entire script, you would hit Command-Option-R or Control-Alt-R on a PC. We will be frequently using the arrow assignment notation. So for example, if we want to assign a value to an object, A, we can hit Alt and the dash sign and give it a value of 1. The pipe operator that we'll be using later in the tidyverse workflow, we can directly hit Ctrl-Shift-M, the typing. It's always a good habit to save your script frequently. So by hitting Command-S, your script is saved. You can see it here. It's important to know the work directory that you're working from. If you're in the wrong work directory, you might not be able to import the files directly with the script that I provided. I'm importing a CSV file. I can use the dot notation, and it takes me to the folder outside of where the script resides in. And then I want to go into the bikeways_shape folder. I can use tab to complete the type for me, and use another tab to select the file. We'll run into functions that we're not familiarized with. So one way to get help is by typing ? For example, we want to know about the function read.csv and hit Control Return, and that will print in the help documentation window in here. Another way to get more help is by using the cheat sheets that are readily available from the RStudio environment. In the Help tab, Cheat Sheets, and you can click on any that interests you or that might be helpful. So now let's get started and import the spatial and tabular files. We can use the traditional read.csv function and take a look at imported file. We'll assign it to parks.df object, and that'll appear in our environment. So let's click on that. There are a lot more options. You can press Tab to see what arguments you can put in. Here we recommend you use the more modern readr package. So let's read in the same data frame and give it another name using the read_CSV from the readr package. We will use st_read from the SF package for any shapefiles that we'll be using. So some simple query that we can perform. First, we can look at all the column names of the CSV file by going Names, Dimension, the class of this data frame, and print a summary of it. They're all printed in your console. You can also take a look at the data frame and interact with it just like you do with an Excel data sheet. I want to look at the first column of this data frame. We can do a summary of one specified column, street name. In the bikeways data frame, street name column, we want to extract all the rows that contain the can be information. If I want to do a class query, say a unique ID, it is of factor class. We know that we have a relatively large data set with lots of rows. What if we want to get only the unique records of a certain column? Here we can see there are 281 unique street names in bikeways. So now that we've familiarized with basic functions and import of the R environment, we will be working with tables that we imported and turn them into spatial data for the next video.